Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to everyone around the world. It is Thursday, and today we have a very wonderful, wonderful guest. As we've been doing for the past about 2 weeks now, we've been having this little artist interview series I've been doing, and today we have the lovely Sage, Copper Queen, on. So I think this will be fun. This will be the first time we actually have someone who knows how to sing on the little interview. So I think that'll be fun. When is Silent Science? Well, they are coming on in the near future. We will announce that in a little bit, Rocco. And also, thank you again for that 2-month resub, Rocco. I really appreciate it. And happy birthday in advance. Probably be saying it to you on Monday if you're here. But I figure we can give people a little bit of time to get in. Hopefully everyone's having a wonderful start to their day. You're throwing a party for sure. I'll give you a little preview. There's Sage right there. And Sage, if you want to unmute and say hello to everyone, you can. Hello, hello. How you doing? Nice. Sounds like fun. Sounds like a weekend I wish I had. Even though it's not even the weekend yet, but it feels like we should be there. You can see her, but we can't hear her. Interesting. Let me do this. There we go. Can you try saying something?
Hello, hello.
Oh, all right. Can everyone hear Sage now?
Who's the pretty boy in the bottom right? Okay.
All right. So now everyone can hear you. So
Yeah, guys. Hey, it's Sage, aka Copper Queen. So good to see you. So happy to be on the show with my new boyfriend, Yusar.
Yeah, your gay boyfriend.
Yep.
Awesome. So I figure we can honestly dive right in. Just to kind of get things going as people trickle in. So I'm pretty sure most people who are here know who you are, but just for the people who are watching on YouTube, people who might be stumbling upon this later, why don't you give us the introduction to Sage the artist or to Copper Queen the streamer?
Yeah. So I guess that's a good way to just break it down in a couple different parts. So Copper Queen is what I stream under. That is like kind of my producer, I guess, name. And that's part of what I am. So I am a producer. I produce music. I use Ableton as my primary DAW for things. And Sage is my artist name. So I produce music for myself, obviously, but I also sing and I also write all of my own songs as well. And I play a couple instruments. I play piano and I play guitar. Yeah, so that's Sage slash Copper Queen. And my overall vibe is like, sad and sexy. That's kind of like what I like to do.
I'm with that. Nice. Well, yeah. Where are you from? Where's your background? Where did Sage become Copper Queen?
Sage became Copper Queen like a year ago, but I am from Texas. I'm from Houston. And I didn't always grow up in Houston, but I always had family here. But I grew up in Texas, born and raised. And yeah, I moved to Houston when I was about 20. And at the time, I was using Logic a lot because I started out using GarageBand when I was like 16 or so.
Nice.
And yeah, I just like kept producing a lot. I never shared my music with anybody for the longest time. I'm 26 now. The only people I really shared my music with were like my best friends and like my mom. And it was terrible back then. So yeah, I used Logic for a while, but as soon as I started using Ableton, probably about 5 years ago, things really took a turn for me. I just, I don't know, my skills just kind of got better like really quickly in the past couple of years. And picked up streaming on Twitch last year around like February. And I did that for the longest time. I didn't watch anyone else's streams. I honestly just had all of the gear and I was like, fuck it, I'll just turn on my webcam. Like, who cares?
Mm.
Going into that, I probably should have done a little more research, but oh well, I learned slowly but surely. And I was streaming under the name Copper Queen. And as I was doing that, people were starting to follow like my SoundCloud, which is Sage, and just kind of get an idea for like what my music is, and all at the same time just watch me produce and just kind of learn and teach me things. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, since being a part of the music community on Twitch, like that's what's really made me progress, not only in just like my brand and just being able to have more people listening to me, but also in just my skills as a producer, just having that like tight knit group of people that are just constantly like supporting me and teaching me things. It's just been so valuable. I like can't even describe, but yeah, since doing that, even in the past like 6 or so months, it's just been awesome. Who, Carter?
Oh
Obviously
yeah.
you. Come on, you know that. I don't even have to say. You all know who you are. But yeah, that's what it's been.
Fun. Well, you know, you were saying you've been using Garage, or you started off with GarageBand when you were 16. You said you're 26 now.
Yeah.
So literally 10 years. How did you get started with music? Because I remember you talking with your sister on one of your streams about like your parents' piano. I know you've been playing guitar for a long time. So how did
Yeah.
that get started? Like, are you from a family of musicians?
Kind of. So like my family, like my big extended family, we're
Mhm.
all Southern Baptist. So we grew up singing in the church, my Aunt Pearl and my Aunt Bobby and my grandma Lou, all sisters, they would
Mm.
sing like all the time, like at Christmas, and we'd be in the church choir and all of that stuff. So grew up doing that. And my parents were like super supportive of it. They got me and my sister, who's older than me. We got like this really shitty like Casio like keyboard. The ones that play like really cheesy like Elton John songs.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, like 100 songs in the bank, and half of them are like classical songs, and then the other half are like modern songs. But it was one of those that would like teach you on the screen like where to put your fingers like on the keys.
Oh,
And
with like the
so
oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would just do that all the time and just constantly play that stupid keyboard. I wish I still had it. And when I was in, I guess like, I would say like 6th grade, I picked up guitar. Yeah. My parents got me a Fender acoustic guitar for Christmas one year because I was just like begging them for one. And I got
Nice.
it. And I just started learning chords like online, just like I learned how to play like Banana Pancakes by Jack Johnson on
Nice.
guitar, like strumming these chords along constantly. And I also had like a little DVD that came with the guitar where you just pop it in and it teaches you chords and stuff. And so I would do that for a while, and then started taking lessons, and then
Mhm.
picked up electric guitar, and then I got like pretty good at that. Um, and all throughout that time, also was doing choir in school, and so by that time I was in choir in high school,
Mhm.
and doing that pretty seriously, but also like being a stupid teenager and like being a dumb teenager and all that stuff. So
Absolutely.
just living my life, but also doing music at the same time. But choir was really amazing. It did a lot for me, like as far as like discipline goes, and really helped shape Carter. Really helped shape the way I sing now,
Mhm.
which is different. Like, I guess the way I shape a lot of the words and the way I pronounce like vowels and things, and a lot of that had to do with the choir background that I had, just like all the training of just doing choir, because you have to shape like your A's and your O's and your E's and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So doing that was definitely valuable for me. And but yeah, my sister, she I hope she doesn't see this, but she can't carry a tune at all. She always wants me to teach her to sing. I think she's great, but she won't ever take it serious. So she's not super musically inclined, but she
Mhm.
definitely has a great ear for it. My mom can sing really well too, but she's never really done anything with it. And my brother, he played electric guitar. That's the reason why I wanted to play guitar, because I thought he was so cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he actually like gave me his like Ibanez guitar like a long, long time ago, and it was like my very first electric guitar.
Oh, that's so
Um,
sweet.
yeah, it was like super metal, and I was like, I don't like the way this sounds. And it had like the drop D tuning like switch on it,
Oh, so
so
just
that was pretty
heavy.
cool. Um, but yeah, as far as like my extended family goes, like is like the music here and there. I actually have a cousin who plays drums for uh, the OCs. The
Oh,
OCs.
no shit. I know that band. Yeah.
Yeah, his name's Austin. He's a drummer for their band, so like he does music. Um, yeah, so got a couple singers here and there, a couple singers, but
Nice.
that's about it.
But you're forging the way for your direct family, it sounds
Oh
like.
yeah,
I'm with
definitely. As far
that.
as the music stuff goes, I'm the one that's like, okay, music.
I'm
Yeah.
with that. I'm with that. Well, so what kind of music were you and your siblings and your family listening to growing up? Like, did that influence the kind of music you make now?
Oh God, yeah. Like it's such a weird like collection of things that like Christian rock only. No, come on, just straight Switchfoot and POD. No. Um, I guess like when I was young, like really little.
Mm.
Um, so my dad is like a total clean freak, and so he in my family like we would do like chore day, and it was always like Saturday mornings. Okay, we'd wake up at the fucking crack of dawn, and my dad would just be like doing the vacuum like right outside your door and be like, it's chore day, I'll get up, let's dust the house.
Oh wow.
So what he would do is he'd put on like Kenny G, like while we're cleaning the entire house. And so I grew up listening to a lot of Kenny G, Yanni, and
Oh
like
boy.
Enigma. Did you guys ever listen to them?
Oh, I
Like
think
that super weird
so.
producer that like made, I guess he's like French or something, made super weird music in the 90s, but it was like pretty like interesting and pretty like renowned for what it was. But
Yeah, yeah.
so listening to a lot of that. My mom, when it was chore day and my mom was in charge, she'd put on like Celine Dion and like Jewel and like Bad Company and like all those like classic rock stuff like Eagles and Boston,
Oh,
Chicago and
love that
America
stuff.
and like all of those. So got a good mix of like those things. But honestly, like I think the music that I enjoy the most came from music that my dad would put on. And he's not a super expressive person. Like now he is because he's like getting to be older and he just doesn't give a fuck anymore. God, I love my dad. But like when we were growing up, he's like really strict and just like didn't really express a lot. But like he had such great taste in music and he shared that with us. And so love my dad for that.
That's
And
awesome.
so a lot of that definitely shaped like my younger years as far as like what music I was listening to.
Hmm.
But as I started to like get older and start to kind of develop my own taste as an individual, I was definitely listening to my brother and sister who are older than me, and I'm the youngest. So, like, as the youngest child, you want to be the coolest one, and you want to be just like your older brother and sister.
Aw.
So, my brother's 7 years older than I am. My sister's 5 years older than I am, and so they were starting to get into their own type of music taste before I was. So that was around the time of like punk rock, like MXPX and like Reliant K and like,
Oh.
All American Rejects, all those like terrible, awesome bands. So I was
Hey,
listening to those,
nostalgia.
just kind of going through their like CDs all the time. Actually, Reliant K was the first band I ever saw live. I was
Oh,
like
that's
10
sick.
and I saw them live at like some football stadium. But yeah, so I was just kind of listening and picking up to whatever they were listening to. And then once I got to be in about like middle school was when I was like, all right, I have my own MP3 player and my own CD player, so I'm gonna start getting my own music going.
Oh, what'd
And
you get
that's when
into?
I started like doing guess like screamo, like that's what I listened
Hey,
to as a teenager because like I had a lot of angst.
same
Um,
here.
God, yeah, I don't know how many times I listened to like My Chemical Romance like that
Yeah, the
one album like over
used
and
and
over and
oh
over
yeah.
and over again. The Used,
Oh
oh my
yeah.
gosh, just all of those bands. My mom used to call it angry white boy music, which like she's not wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, Census Fail was a big one. Not for me personally,
Oh
but
yeah.
most of my friends were into
Oh,
Census Fail. Were
yes.
you?
Yes.
Nice. Very much
Same.
also. Yeah.
So yeah, I was just listening to all of those bands. And then when I was in high school, kind of towards the end of high school, I started really branching out to some things that were a lot more experimental and I guess little more alternative. Like Animal Collective was like the first like Merriweather Post Pavilion. That was like one of the albums that I got that I was like, whoa, this is like incredible. Like, what is this music?
Yeah. Interesting side note about that album. I was born about 10 minutes away from the actual Merriweather Post Pavilion in Maryland.
No way.
Yeah.
That is so
So
cool.
yeah, that album holds a special place in my heart. Even though I've never been like super huge on Anima Collective, I know it's a bit of a garish opinion to have in 2019. Can't be a big fan of Animal Collective, but that album in particular, it has sentimental value.
Yeah. I just remember, I mean, and I was like in high school at the time and I was like, oh, let's smoke weed, you know? So I was, doing all that, and so just the music that comes along with that sort of like experience as like a teenager growing up, just those things kind of go hand in hand, at least to me.
Definitely, yeah.
So that was just an era, and then I started listening to like Fleet Foxes and like Bonnie Bear and like one of my best friends at the time, his name is Graham. He gave me For Emma Forever Ago for my birthday. And God, I just love that album so much. Such a good one.
That's
Um,
so cool.
what are all these Chinese bands? Carter,
Carter,
you need
you
to
need
listen
to
to more music.
educate yourself, Carter.
Yeah, educate yourself.
That's cool. So, would you say that like there are things outside of music that influence you as much as the music that you listened to growing up? Like, was there any big moments or any big experiences that you say like really shape the way that you create or interpret your music?
I wouldn't say that a lot of those things are external. I think a lot of them are internal for me, like just the experience of like through like the lens of Sage, I guess.
Totally,
Like,
yeah.
and maybe I interpret that a little bit too literally. Like the way I don't know why this is popping in my head, but like, no, I'm not even gonna say it. It's too
Go
weird.
for it. No,
Um,
say it. If there was
well, it's
ever a
like some
time.
people will write about like things that might be happening like in the world or maybe in their circle, but like I wouldn't take like 9/11 and be like, oh, this is influencing me. I need to write a song about it. But
Hmm.
like instead, it's more of just like what happens to me as an individual and the things that I've gone through and the emotions and feelings that like happen. Um, so I guess that's more of like where I kind of go. Like that's the lane that I'm in.
I'm with that. Well, that's one thing I notice about a lot of your work is the tone is very intimate. And we can get into kind of the lyrics and kind of the sexual nature of things, which is a big part of your music, which is a good thing in my opinion. I think it's a really fun approach to kind of the same sort of topics that a lot of people talk about, but it's in a very like personable and not necessarily closed off way, but it has a sense of reservation to it that I always hear in not just your lyrics, but in your songwriting and in your production. So I can definitely see what you're talking about. Like it's very much like you are sharing your personal self with the world through your music rather than, if I'm understanding you correctly, kind of filtering the world through your experiences. You're filtering your experiences through the world to kind of put it in a
Yeah,
poetic
that makes
sense.
perfect sense. Yeah, never thought of
Totally.
it that way.
Like, I'm with that.
Yeah.
So that being said, has your music changed at all? Like when you were working in GarageBand, when you were 16, like not even counting like the quality of the work, but like the sound and the subject matter. Is there kind of like a natural progression where like we could listen to like say the first Sage song and the most recent Sage song and see a pattern, or were there like big shifts over time?
I definitely think you would see a pattern, hands down.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. As far as the content and the way that I express myself, like emotionally and lyrically, and even songwriting and the structure, there's definitely been it's pretty consistent. Um, a lot of the sounds too. I think just the tone, like, has always been like the way that it is for me. Like,
Hmm.
just that kind of like floaty, that real kind of it's not ambient, but it's very soothing in a way. It's very chill,
Yeah.
almost that melancholy feel. Like it's always been that way for me, like ever since forever.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing right now? Like, we don't need to talk too much about, like, 6 month plans, but like, what have you just finished? What are you about to release? What's like in the next couple of weeks, essentially, or the next month or two for Sage?
Yes. Sorry, I just keep reading everything
Carter.
Carter's saying, and it's just killing me. It's killing me.
Oh,
Well,
God.
in the next couple weeks, I plan on eating ass on stage at Burning Man. Definitely. Oh, it's a joke, mom.
Please.
um, yeah. So I have been working on my next track, which is called Breathe, and yeah, I'm just like super stoked about this one. I put out Love You Bless like a couple months ago, and I'm already having this another release. So that feels really good to
Mm-hmm.
have two releases, not really back to back. Like I wish I could have squished them a little bit closer together as far as timing goes, but I'm happy with it right now as far as timing is. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've been working on Breathe, which is I think a really good follow-up song to Love You Plus. It definitely has a lot of the same kind of tone, lyrical content as the one before, but it sounds a lot differently sonically.
Oh,
And so
very
I'm
much
excited
so.
to kind of like put that foot forward and so show people something that I think is a lot easier to listen to. Not as upbeat. It's definitely a lot slower, a lot more chill, and a lot more sexy. Yeah,
Hey.
you know,
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
sensual.
well, with that, we can start moving into the tracks. But before we do that, I actually had a question that because you are kind of very multidisciplinarian, you're a singer, a songwriter, a producer. You even do your own art, which is really really cool. So I'm curious, like, do you think of these all as like equal levels of importance, or do you place certain ones more? Like, do you think of yourself as like a producer first or a songwriter first? I'm just
That's a
curious
great
about that.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on the day. I do think they're all equally important. They all have weight to them because I want to be the whole fucking package. That's just me. I want to do it
Totally.
all. And as like artists, like we wear a lot of hats already. Like
Absolutely.
we are our own manager, our own like PR person, social media strategist. We are our own marketing firm and songwriter, producer, all of those things you just
Yeah.
mentioned. And I'm really interested in just delivering an entire experience. And so I have to work really hard on like all of those facets and like all of those angles that I want to take. And like,
Mm-hmm.
believe me when I tell you, like before I post anything on like Instagram, I think about it for like hours. It's terrible. Like I overthink it. I'm like, oh my God, what is this going to look like? But I feel like I have to do that in order to get what I want, in
Totally.
order to get like to where I want to go. And so yeah, I definitely think all of those have the same weight. However, I also, I'm an emotional person, I'm an artist. So one day, like, I don't feel like making music. And so I take a step back and I say, okay, Sage, like, how can I be productive today with
Mm-hmm.
like my life and the career I want in music? And so I think, okay, do I feel like working on video content? And I'm like, not really. Do I feel like drawing something or making like digital art? I'm like, yeah, that actually sounds like something I feel like doing. And so I'll just kind of play around with it. And even if I don't make anything important, at least I got that thing and I expressed it into some sort of like creative way, So
Yeah.
it depends on the day. And going that route, I think, and just having that discipline can be a good thing. There's also a bad way to it as well. It can seem a little less productive in a way.
No, absolutely.
Um, but and that tends to like make me have releases that are not coming out as often. Like I don't release music every day like Carter does, um, which is amazing that he does that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at.
I'm with that. I guess a good follow up to that would be like, since you do want to be the total package, like if let's say we were able to see like a huge rocket of growth in Sage over the next year in terms of like a brand and an artist image, like would there be a certain aspect of all of this that you would want to take a step back from? Like, would you be interested in like relinquishing some control over the production or over the marketing side of things? Like, I know personally, like if like I get the devil's luck and somehow I actually make it in this industry, which who fucking knows if that'll ever happen. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hire a social media marketing manager and like have them take over all of my socials. Just have them do everything on that vein for me, or in that vein for me, because I just don't want to do that. But you know, for a lot of other things, like I would feel really weird relinquishing control over like my art direction. Even though I don't do a lot of my own visual art, I'm very involved in the creative direction of my art, and I would feel weird about relinquishing that. Is there anything like that that you would not want to give up, or anything that you would?
I think I would like to give up I guess like the legwork of reaching out to like the promotional side of stuff, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
the emailing, the research on like labels and all that stuff. Like I just don't love doing that part. I don't think I could really give up a lot of control as far as the production, the creative vision, the art and design part of it. I think I would need, because that's all internal to me and like that's all where it forms. And I think that's what makes it special. And I just don't see myself being able to give up on that.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do appreciate and value like the input from others on it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Um, I think, yeah, like if it were to happen and things were moving forward, just having that sort of like management, I think like a manager, I think is something that I've been thinking about a lot and something that I think I am ready for.
Same.
Yeah.
I feel that. Well, I think that's a good point to move past the introductions. Everyone has a good sense of you, and I think I've learned quite a bit as well, just in this short little time, which is exciting.
Yay.
But let's move on to the fun part.
The fun part.
So
Should I put my glasses on?
yes, obviously. Yeah, Sage was showing me this before the stream. She looks so fabulous right now.
I got a package like while we were setting up, and I was like, I got some sunglasses. So
Awesome.
here
So
we
what
go.
I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to Sage's Spotify page,
Ooh.
and so I figure we could start by listening to Love You Plus, and then could you real quick DM me a link to the SoundCloud private link for Breathe? Because we're gonna
Yes.
listen to that and then go into the project. Because we were having a little bit of problems getting Ableton to show up for audio on Sage's computer. So I have the project on mine, and we're gonna go through that afterwards. But I figure we can start off just by listening to Love You Plus and talking about it. That's
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Awesome. Got that link. So, do you want to listen along with me and like we can count it off, or do you want to listen on the stream? Like basically, if there's any point you want to pause and talk about something, we can, or we can just listen to the whole song and then talk about it after.
I guess. Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't want to decide. I feel like either one works for me. I don't know. What have you done in the past that works?
We've been doing a little bit of both, and they seem to work equally well. It's more kind of like if the artist who I'm interviewing is like, oh, I hear something there, and they want to talk about it.
Maybe the stop start approach would be good.
All right, so I'm going to get the song ready, and then pretty much whenever are ready, we can get started. I'll count us off.
Okay.
Alrighty. So I'm going to start playing in 3, 2, 1.
I guess right here is a good place.
Sure, yeah. I paused at 26
So
seconds.
20 seconds in. If you haven't heard it already, like that's the aquatic ambience art from that song.
Donkey Kong Country.
Donkey Kong
2, I
Country, if
believe.
you are familiar with it. Fun fact, I actually took the MIDI, and a lot of people are like, she's ripping it off. And I'm like, yeah, so like I ripped it off really fucking good. Like
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. It's like people that are like, you use splice samples, and I'm like, yeah, I made a really dope song out of it. Are you jealous? Or so yeah, I actually Googled the MIDI for that song and it's all on the internet. There's actually a huge database of MIDI files for entire songs for
Oh,
video
yeah.
games online. You just got to Google it. So,
That's
yeah.
cool. So is that how the song started?
Yes. I actually was just playing around. I was like, I want some ideas and I needed ideas. And I actually watched a really cool YouTube video from some like production guy about David Weiss.
Mhm.
And he was breaking down like why David Weiss is a fucking musical genius, which he is. And I just got really inspired by it because I love like ambient music and mine is it teeters on that edge sonically. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was like, man, David Weiss, okay, Donkey Kong Country. And then I listened to that song and I was like, this is really cool. And then I Googled the MIDI and I found it and I just put it in Ableton and I just started messing that project up. But the entire project started out as just the MIDI for the aquatic ambience.
That's so cool. I'm with
Yeah.
that. All right. So where are you at? And I'm gonna start from there.
20 seconds.
All right. 20 seconds. Okay. So I'm starting in 3, 2, 1.
What can I say? I like being bad, I don't wanna be good. What can I do? If love is what you want from me, you just gotta say so. And I'll be more
Okay, I guess that's a
taking
good
it
point.
away.
All right. I'm at 45 seconds right now.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, like the whole build up, the drop happens pretty fast. I've never really made a song like that where it just the energy just builds and it just hits really quickly. And I was really happy with the way that sounded. Um, a lot of like I'd say like half of the instruments that you're hearing already started out as that MIDI again. But then I just kind of started dropping in samples from Splice from there, like that guitar sound, like that meow sound. I took that from Splice. I took it from the Dwilly the dinosaurs and donut sound pack. I think a lot of people know about that one.
Oh, for sure.
That's from that, and I processed the crap out of it. But yeah, I guess like lyrically, like up to this point, it's called Love You Plus. It's all about like you can love somebody more, but like they're just taking it away from you, but they're not, and they're not really giving anything back.
Mhm.
That's kind of the whole inspiration for the song. Yeah, that's where I'm at so far.
For sure. Well, I'm curious, just to kind of touch on this real quick before getting back into the song. How would you describe your songwriting process in terms of like coming up with lyrics and top line melodies and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, I usually start with just like some sort of foundation of a song, usually with that pad that you hear me play, like in literally everything, which you'll hear in Breathe too. Um, Even if it's just like 8 bars of just chord progression, cool. And I'll usually just loop it in Ableton and I'll set up my mic and all my effects and everything with my voice and just kind of sit there and listen over and over and over again. And yeah, I'll usually just kind of get in my feels a little bit, it's just
Okay.
I like to set up my room too in a way that like makes me feel super comfortable, get the mood lighting going, and then I just kind of see what it is I need to say. And I loop it over and over again to see how I want to say it
Okay.
because I write lyrics and melodies at the same time. Um, so I usually like take a sentence or a phrase that I think is really interesting, and I'll just kind of mix up the phrase, whatever fits, like with the syllables to a melody, I guess.
Okay. Do you come up with the idea kind of like line by line, or do you come up with like as like a whole verse, or?
Sometimes it's both. I think I've gotten into a habit actually recently of doing it line by line, and then when you zoom out and you listen to the whole thing, you're like, "Whoa, this doesn't make sense." Like it's really choppy,
Okay.
and I tend to do that, and it's something I'm working on. And so when I do it as a whole verse, I find that it flows much, much better.
Okay.
So it's harder to do and it takes a lot more time because I have to memorize what I'm doing. And then I just kind of tack on whatever it is I'm fixing at the same time.
Oh,
So
for
what I
sure.
do is I sing the verse, that I feel like is pretty solid and I like, and then I start working on the next piece. So it involves me repeating a lot and a lot and a lot. But I find that actually comes out better. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. And I
Okay.
feel like that also lends itself to the way that you layer vocals.
Oh, yeah.
Because I noticed that both when watching you stream and looking through the stems for Love You Plus when you sent those over to me, like you have about like 6 or 4 or 5 vocal tracks in that. And I think that the way that you work really emphasizes making sure that the timbre of the vocals per line is constantly evolving in little tiny ways, and I've always really liked that about your music.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just check out Breathe. It's like eight vocal tracks.
Oh,
There's a
fun,
lot
yeah.
in there.
So we can go more into that, I guess, once we're looking at the
Oh
project.
yeah,
then
for sure.
Okay, for sure. All right, so I'm gonna be starting from 45 seconds in 3, 2.
For me, let's get it better, 'cause I'm the one you're fucking with. I can love you more, you're keeping it away from me. Let's get it better, 'cause I'm the one you're fucking with. I'm slowly wearing out the
Oh, okay.
name in
That's a
this
good part.
Okay.
So leading into that second part, I loved the transition that I did on there, like the little guitar part.
Oh yeah.
I used a sample from the Sakima sound pack on Splice, the vocal part, where you kind of hear that kind of lead in. It's like, and it's like has a lot of reverb and echo to it. I used a piece from that. And I had something else to say, but I lost it.
Well, I'm curious about the kind of descending arp, the da-da-da-da-da-da kind of thing. Was that a sample, or did you write that? Because I think I saw that as MIDI in your
The
project.
ARP?
Yeah.
Yeah, the ARP was from the Donkey Kong.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
Anything else you wanted to touch on, or should we?
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right. So let's keep going in 3, 2, 1.
Starting, and now I feel the same thing. It's hard to keep up every day when you feel something. Pain, you give it away. I can take it if you love me more. I can fix it if you love me more. Make it better when you love me more.
I guess we could stop right there.
Yeah, I'm pausing at like 150.
Yeah. That part like means a lot to me just because the first like minute and a half of the song I wrote completely separately from that part. So I wrote that part, and I guess like a month later I went back to it and wrote the second part because I needed time away from it for a little bit. And like life was different at the time, and I was going through different things, and so that's what kind of shaped that section. But to me, it feels really sweet, and it's like the most vulnerable part of the song because, like, lyrically, it's like it feels like just like longing, and it feels like it's just like I have all this love, and like there's just nowhere to put it anymore. Like I've given it all away, and now I just have nothing left.
Totally.
And like if you just like let me fix it, like I could, but you won't let me, and like that's just heartbreaking. And so that's just kind of where I was with that part.
Yeah, I mean, I actually feel like the production also kind of sets that emotion up, because one thing that I'm noticing, listening back to this as we're going through this, excuse me, you are incredibly conservative with your kicks.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard maybe like 20 kicks in this entire song so far, which for most of the pop music and vocal centric music that I'm used to hearing, the drum groove is a primary part of this, and you have lots of percussion. I love all the stereo shaker and hi-hat stuff you have going on. A lot of your synths are very rhythmic. But in terms of like the fundamental groove, like your kick and your snare, which for a lot of dance music producers is the heart and soul of a tune, you like almost never use them. Like, is there a reason for that, or is that just kind of an aesthetic choice?
I guess so. And like Carter's probably like screaming right now because like he's always like, Sage has this thing with snares, and let me tell you what it is. And I'm like, yeah, you're fucking right. Like, I don't know. I guess I just hate repetitiveness. I hate things that repeat too much. And maybe I'm a little too sensitive to that because when I'm making my own music, I'm like, okay, I don't want this to repeat ever. So then I just kind of don't use it in a way,
Mm-hmm.
which sometimes is good. Sometimes it can kind of add like a weird effect for a listener as well. Like it's hard to like kind of flow. But I just really also value like taking things out and just like playing with silence as most as I can.
Yeah.
I like to kind of get in that weird boundary, and I think sometimes it just happens by accident and it ends up working out for me. But I think that's why I think for me it helps me build like the dynamic and the tension and kind of the flow of my tracks, I guess.
Yeah, it keeps your tracks have a lot of dynamic range. I noticed that.
I think it's just because my arrangements are so weird. Like my song structure is different.
Well, it's very sparse. And I feel like one thing I talk about sometimes like on the feedback streams is a song that feels aimless. And yours never feels aimless. Like it always feels like it's moving towards something, but it's very much like, rather than feeling meandering, it feels like wanderlust. It feels like you're exploring and kind of traversing. Like for me, like music is a very visual, landscapey kind of thing where like I listen to a song, I see like some structures, and kind of it relates back to sort of like the wide open range of Texas to the way that I perceive it, where like there's just these huge horizons of almost nothingness, but there's just so much impact within the little landmarks that you see along the way. And I feel like that plays in with the way that you arrange your main grooves, or like the fundamental grooves that we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of putting it. I like how you like use the analogy of landscape. It's just like everything that you see, but like soundscape is just like everything that you hear, and just like combining those things is just really, really cool and really interesting. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
super fun. All right, let's keep going. 3, 2, and 1.
If love is what you want from me, you just gotta say so. I can love you more, you're taking it away from me. Let's not get better, 'cause I'm the one you're fucking with.
Actually, let's pause really quickly. I'm at 2:17. A little bit before where I just paused, I heard this little percussive fill. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's right at about 2:10. How did you make that?
That kind of like jittery sound.
The kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Carter, you call me a thought? A thought he never gets called. You know what I'm saying? I love it. I used a snare sample and I chopped it up and reversed it in a way.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I like took the same chop and then I just took different areas, like different transients of the snare, and then I reversed a couple of them and then just cut them up.
Yeah,
and then added the clap.
Yeah, very vinyl scratch kind of feel to it, which
I
is
love
like,
doing that. I just love it.
Yeah, it's a huge, like because it's interesting because it's like a huge departure from all this very synthwavy kind of vibe that you have going on, and it instantly transports us into a completely new context, which for the way that the sections transition, and I can tell that you spend a lot of time on your transitions because there's always something happening at the end of a phrase, at the end of a major bar that like really pushes forwards. Like before about, I'd say like halfway through the song, there's the point where you're having those very long phrases, but you end the phrase with this huge delay out. And like it always keeps the song kind of moving forwards, which helps with the structure. It's not necessarily conforming to a very rigid like pop format song structure, but every transition feels intentioned, so no one ever feels lost.
Yeah, and it's something I'm constantly working on just as a producer and as like a musician. A lot of the songs that I make, like they wander and they kind of go somewhere, but a lot of times for a listener, it ends up being unsatisfactory in a way. Like it builds up to this thing, and sometimes it just kind of happens. And sure, it's unexpected, but sometimes, and something I'm working on is really seeing that idea out into something that's super satisfying, which is like what pop music is, and like that's what I'm working towards. And so I like what I do now, but I definitely want to work on where that's going.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, even comparing this to Breathe, like even though they're so close together, like there is a lot of development and structure between the two songs that I think is really cool. I'm excited to get to Breathe, because then we can talk about that more.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm at 2:17. Since there's only about like 40 seconds left, we can just kind of let this run and then go from there. So 3, 2, and 1.
Keeping it away from me. As I get better, 'cause I'm the one you're fucking with.
Nice.
Yeah,
So,
I have to put this in here before I forget. The last like section there. I don't know if you guys heard of KDHD. He makes dubstep. He's kind of around. He only has one song out, but he and I like talk all the time. He's super cool producer,
For
and he
sure.
actually was the first person I sent this entire project to because I needed help mixing it. And I needed help with the outro. And like that last like kind of Reese bass and the strings that you hear, he added that. It was
that's
just
so cool.
perfect. Like I was just having a really hard time, like, how am I going to finish this song? I was going to do this weird like vaporwave flip where I pitched it down, but I was like, man, that feels kind of cheap to me. And he just wrote the most simple outro, and it was so perfect.
Yeah, it feels very
and so I have to
natural.
shout him out for that, Katie. I love you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you so much
That's
for
so
helping me.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that. There was some other thing. Let me listen back to the last couple seconds real quick. Yeah, so there's like, it sounds like a lot of like high frequency reverse transient sounds, almost like you broke glass and then reversed the sample. Where did that come from? Was that KDH?
I think it was the
you?
patch that he used in the synth.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's just so many little details like throughout this whole song that like it all just, there's just always some sort of ambiance like moving around like at every moment. So like again, like even though everything is so sparse, everything is like, you know, there's miles between each kick drum almost. There's always something interesting to listen to and notice that's not at the center of your attention. And I've always liked that in the music that I've heard from you.
Thank you.
So that's really cool. Anything else you wanted to touch on for this project?
I guess just to kind of like wrap it all up, my friend Oscar actually helped me mix and master this track. So he is a friend that I used to work with here in Houston, and he just started up his own recording studio. It's called Electro Labs. It's here in Houston. And I posted on Instagram like a while back that I was having trouble mixing something, and he like messaged me out of the blue. I hadn't talked to him in like years, and he was like, let me help you finish the song. Like I can help you fix the mix. I was like, hell fucking yeah. Are you free tomorrow? And so went over there, and he's just a really talented producer, and he's got the whole setup, and like he actually helped me mix and master Breathe as well. Yeah, I mean, this song wouldn't be where it is without his help as well. So like I got to give credit where it's due, as you know, all the people that have helped me out on this track. So
Oh yeah. And no, I mean, no song is made in a vacuum
No, definitely
throughout
not.
the entire process. So I think, you know, with that, like it's important to acknowledge that even though it is your creation, even though it is like our own songs are what we like make of it, like there's nothing wrong with getting help on any part of it. Like, especially if it's something that you feel less confident in. Like, that's one of the things I love about the Twitch music community is we're all very supportive of each other. And like, I always know that if I am confused about something, like I can go to Nexi, or I can go to Carter, or I can go to you, and there's always like someone who knows something that I don't, or that you don't, and that is a good thing, because it means that we want to help each other.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, if we can keep that in mind, and not feel like we have to be like this monolith of I'm doing everything myself and nothing is just mine and nothing is out of my hands, like, you know, it's just super important.
It would never work that way. I think
Yeah.
like to be successful, you have to ask for help, and you have to be open to criticism, and you have to be open to ideas like at all times. It's just super essential. Carter, shut up. You know, I ask you for stuff all the time. Like, please. You know, you're absolutely right. Like, you got to be open to help, and you know, that's just the way that it is. If I don't ask for help, I go crazy. I just get in this like weird loop of listening to it over and over and over again. And then I get into the state of like, I hear things that aren't even there, or other people hear things that I can't. And like, you have to get other ears on these things, on your music, in order for it to really come out to be the best that it can be, I think.
Absolutely. Well, with that, why don't we shift gears a little bit? I'm going to open up this SoundCloud link. And then, since we do have the project file, why don't we listen to Breathe all the way through, and then I'll open up the project file and we can start taking a look at it.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So, do you have it up, or you're going to listen on the stream, or?
I'll listen to it on stream.
Okay, for sure.
It'll be easier.
Sounds great.
Oh, thinking about your lips on my lips. Oh, I was thinking about your hands on my neck. Oh, and I can't breathe. Oh, and I can't but you keep me up all night, and it's not right. Oh, everything I feel is about you, and I won't go away. You've never been in love until you've been in love with me. I know you wanna give it up, but you don't even got it, babe. Oh, thinking about your lips on my lips. Oh, I was thinking about your hands on my neck. Oh, and I can't breathe. Oh, and I can't
That's just so clean.
Thank you.
So clean.
Thanks.
I mean, I will say, as I'm getting this project opened, Like one of the first things that I noticed is it's interesting. Like in Love You Plus, the sample comes from like Donkey Kong Country, and like the chord progression here actually reminds me a little bit of like Legend of Zelda.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know if you
Love
hear
that.
that. Yeah, like that
Oh,
opening right
yeah.
there. Like it
That's
just
like
feels like
the intro to like in Ocarina of Time. It's like
exactly.
when it first comes up. It's
Yeah, like
super
it
similar to
sounds
that. I never
so
noticed that.
close. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. So I'm gonna hop over here to the
Sad Savior,
webcam.
I love you so much. And Sad Savior is the reason why I finished this song because he kept messaging me. He's like, when are you finishing Breathe? When are you finishing Breathe? And like I love Sad Savior's music and respect the shit out of this guy. And so I was like, okay, maybe this song is good. You know, when you go to that thing as a musician and you're like, oh my god, is this song actually good? Maybe does it actually sound like shit and everyone's lying to me? And
Hmm.
like since I like Sad Savior's music so much and he was like, no, the song is good, like I don't know, I guess I believed in myself because he believed in me. So Sad
Aw.
Savior, I love you so much. Thank you.
Shout out to Sad Savior. I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily gonna be able to see the chat right now because of how this is working. So if you see any questions you want to answer while we're going through this, we can. So why don't you tell me how this project got started?
So this one started with let me try and remember here. Definitely started with the piano sample, the very beginning that you see there. Um yeah.
Let me turn this
And
up a little bit.
then I built on top of that. I think I added the pads,
Pads, which
that
is
main pad that I use for like
this
literally
one right
everything.
here. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. And so
Yep.
this is the Korg Legacy Cell plugin, which
Yes.
I don't have, as people on stream can see right here. I'm missing this plugin, but it's a great plugin. Do you use any of the other Korg Legacy synths in your projects?
Yeah, I do. I sometimes use the just different presets and I'll just kind of tweak them, but that pad is like the pad I use for
Oh,
everything,
for sure.
which you'll hear it's kind of like that reusable sound that I want to like people recognize me by. Sometimes I use like bass synths and strings. Like there's a Poly 6 string patch. It looks like people can't hear the Ableton audio.
I can't hear Ableton audio. Okay, let me fix that. So now people should be able to hear Ableton audio.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but I've been really using Serum a lot more, honestly.
Nice, nice. Okay. And I'm trying to find all your vocals. There we go. Oh man, yeah, we got a lot of vocal takes in here.
Yeah, we do.
Main, background vocals 1, 2, and 3, left and right mono, which are also vocal takes, I'm assuming.
Yeah, thank you, Carter, for that little tip.
Nice.
I did that because Carter told me to do that.
Oh,
So, Carter,
cool.
don't say I never ask you for anything. Okay.
Nice. Alrighty. Oh, what is this unused MIDI at the top? Can we talk about this for a second?
Oh, yeah. It's this little thing I do during production. It's like my little MIDI graveyard. So, it's just MIDI that is never going to go anywhere. But sometimes I'll build like a chord progression or I'll take like harmonies using the Ableton convert to harmony thing from chord progressions. And then I'll change them up. Sometimes I'll just make a copy of it in case I mess one of them up and I'll just throw it in the MIDI graveyard just so I don't lose it. Yeah, I just use it there just as like, do you ever do like that whenever you're producing? You're like, oh,
Oh,
what
yeah.
if I mess this up? I don't want to fuck up the whole project. And then
All the time, all the time. I
I
usually
add
have
that
something
there
like
just to make
that.
myself feel better because like I have never once taken anything from the MIDI graveyard. So all my projects have it, but I never even have used them. So I don't know. I think it just makes you feel better.
No, it's like a safety net.
Yeah.
I'm with that. Oh, and I see 2 kick channels on here.
Yes.
Interesting.
Thank you, Kicks. Thank you, Carter. God, Carter. If he's gone and he's not watching this, I swear.
Oh, goodness.
Somebody clip it. He helped me in the beginning. I had that first kick, which is that kick 10 that I use from Splice, like literally all the time. The kick I felt like needed some changing in the build up. So like when things start to actually get bigger, I wanted to change up the kick there. And Carter sent me some percussion that he thought was really good. I just took what I liked from it and remade the pattern. The kicks don't technically play at the same time. I know they do in the project. That's just the way I exported the stems. But I kept the side chain from all the other instruments, like while I was exporting the stems to be mixed. Okay. So whenever you see the green kick, the purple one doesn't play at the same time.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. And then looks like you got this big old bass patch.
Yeah, that's in Serum.
Let's take a look at this real quick. Nice.
Yeah.
Now, did you modify this patch at all, or is this from a
definitely.
sample pack? Nice.
I started with that patch and then just kind of messed around with the filter. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Added the arpeggiator and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, can you talk a little bit about this? Because this is all single notes, but we still have an arpeggiator on it that's moving a little bit.
Yeah, if you turn the arpeggiator off, you'll probably notice the difference.
Oh wow, much more sustained.
Yeah. I like the movement more with the arpeggiator.
Yeah, it feels a lot more dull. With the arpeggiator off, I can tell right there.
Yeah. I do that a lot, I think, with my basses starting out. I feel like it just helps me make a groove easier. Sometimes I keep the arp, sometimes I don't. Just depends.
Yeah, I dig that. Do you play with any of the settings usually beyond like the gate or the rate? Do you ever try using like swing or anything?
Yeah, I do. The swing, not so much, but I definitely play around with the style, like diverge and the thumb up, thumb down. I play with that a lot. The gate, definitely, depending on the song, and then also the rate. I've been doing this thing where I automate the rate from 1/8 to 1/16, like really fast. Not in this project, but I have been doing that a lot lately. Just for like little short spurts, kind of like with that weird little jittery sound that I like.
Nice.
And then the retrigger sometimes I'll mess with as well, but I don't really mess with the transpose or velocity.
Oh yeah, I don't know many people who play around with like transpose in a major or minor.
Yeah.
Looks like we got a couple of keys here. Let's take a listen to this. Now, is this connected with this chord loop, or did you have like a bunch of different chords that you added in together?
So see where the green for that MIDI on the keys is? It says medicine tonal loop. So I took that from Splice and then I converted it to MIDI. And then I just made sure all the notes were right or where I wanted them to be. And then I think I automated some of the parameters in Serum to make the keys move a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, I can see this this frequency shifter.
Yeah.
Or the EQ frequency, not a frequency shifter, excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, I see that. Oh, so it's kind of like a low pass filter opening up. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that helps like make the build, like it was a really tiny like adjustment that I made, but it made such a big difference.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's what I love about music, like a little bit goes such a long way with ideas.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I'm noticing is in general, like there's a fair bit of like mixing, processing going on here. I can see you're using Neutron on a lot of these tracks, a lot of mixing adjustments going on here, which really shapes the sound. But in terms of like effects before the mixing plugins, you're generally going for fairly clean sounds.
Absolutely. I think that's essential.
Not a lot of like distortion, like generally like not a lot of stuff. Even like this auto panner right here on the hi-hats, I don't see a lot of that in your work. It feels like you're picking sounds based on the way that they work rather than trying to get things to fit in with your sound.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a choice that I make, like just as a producer. And when it comes to like the sound design stuff, which I'm still very new at, I think that like just starting from the bottom and just kind of working up is super essential. Like whenever you're starting with like your oscillators and your wavetable, like just starting there and then adding the effects after helps me to achieve the sound that I'm looking for. Yeah. And then also sample selection as well, like sound selection, trying to find the right sound initially and then shaping it to make it work. Yeah.
I've noticed that. Yeah, like I mean, sample selection is a huge part of the production game that I think a lot of people honestly kind of skimp on. Like I would say if there's one thing in my own production journey that has really helped me grow a lot, it's to stop hunting for like 5,000 free kick drum samples or chord samples, and like just investing a little bit of money into like good preset libraries, good sample libraries, spending the time on Splice, digging through all like these random packs, trying to find like that one sound that will fit in a lot of different projects.
Definitely.
And using that to kind of create my own personal sample library. And I noticed that a lot in this. Like, there's a lot of stuff like this little top loop right here, which, you know, you have a little bit of production on here. You have a little bit of downsampling going on. You have some pretty surgical EQing going on. I'm noticing this big ass cut right here. I'm assuming there's going to be a big resonant peak that shows up. Yeah, I see that right there.
Yeah, I took that out.
That's cool.
Helped to kind of shape it a little bit more. It was like real kind of, real definitely resonant. And actually, I sent this song to your feedback stream a few weeks ago, like before I finished the final mix on it, and I fixed an issue where it was panning too hard, I think to the right at a certain point, and so I changed the panning a little bit to kind of make sure it wasn't so obvious over there.
Oh, for sure.
It still moves pretty fast and hard from left to right. I just made it a little less noticeable per your suggestion. User, thank you so much.
Of course. And the interesting thing that I'm noticing kind of with that, like, you know, most of the sounds are relatively, as usual, sparsely used. Like your kicks are a grand total of like about a minute and a half in a 2 3/4 minute song. Like barely there. These pads are relatively sparse. These keys are very sparse. But down here at the bottom, you have this bird texture that I didn't even notice until the end of the song.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of creating this really nice background.
Yeah, I think that's a technique that I learned from just watching YouTube tutorials on different songs. Grimes is like a super big inspiration to me. She's the reason why I was like, yo, I'm going to produce all my own music. I don't give a fuck what anybody else says. I'm going to learn how to do this. If she can do it, I can. And I watched a YouTube video from her, I don't know, a couple months ago, where she likes to use crowds, like a sample of like a crowd, and she'll like EQ it, and she'll just kind of let it sit really low in the mix because it adds a lot of texture and adds like just this space, this dimension. And so I was like, I want to do that. I'm going to try birds. And so I did, and it ended up sticking.
Nice. Now, I'm actually kind of noticing, because I want to save the bulk of this to talk about the vocals. That's kind of why I'm avoiding them right now. But I'm noticing that on your mixer, the actual mixer channels are generally left at 0, and you do your volume balance with a utility plugin. Can you talk about the logic behind that? Because I think that's actually really cool.
Yeah, that's a new thing I've been trying. Just creating headroom, honestly, for your tracks. Oscar, the guy that helped me mix LUV U Plus. Hey, Dominus. Oh my gosh, I know I haven't listened to it yet. I'm so excited. I love Grimes. I worked on a project with him. It's a song that I have that I love so much, and I just can't figure it out. It's called Secret Dream Girl. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but I initially went to the studio to have his help with mixing that song. And when I gave him the stems, he was like, okay, look what's going on here. And he like really broke it down for me, really helped me out. He put an EQ on everything. He was like, look where this is clipping. This is clipping on your master. Like all of your stuff's clipping. And so I was like, okay. And showed me, it was like, you can start your channels at, minus 10, minus 18 or whatever, or you can do it with utility. So I started using the utility plugin, and I read that like minus 18 dB was where a lot of third-party plugins are like optimized for. Like you need a certain amount of volume reduction to be able to get the most out of those plugins, because they're going to bring the audio up. So typically when I start a new project, I put a utility on there and I do minus 10.
Okay.
And then I'll adjust further down depending on what I'm putting in there. Because like a lot of my projects, the older ones were just like way too loud, and there wasn't enough like room to be able to mix and master it. Like I had no headroom at all, because I'd never really known about it. I never really knew what that was about. So that's where I started doing the utility. But I'm not sure if it works the same way if you just start with 0 on the channel versus doing 0 in utility. I don't know if those are the same thing or not, but that's just what I do.
Yeah, I mean they're related. So it's interesting because you were mentioning the plugins, a lot of them being optimized for a certain volume range, and that's something that I heard about as well. I think it was like I want to say it was a Steve Duda lecture. Steve Duda, the guy who made Serum.
Yeah, God love him, Father Duda.
Shout out, Steve. And he was saying that when it comes to the audio going out of the tracks into the master stereo output, the volume going out of the track doesn't really matter because of all the 32-bit audio giving you like a shit ton of headroom over digital 0. So on your master, like you could technically mix into your master at like 0 and it would still be fine. But when you're talking about individual channels, like the signal chain going into it, if you have a signal going too hot or conversely too quiet into a plugin, that plugin is going to respond differently. So doing it actually in the signal chain using like a utility plugin, or going in and adjusting the master output gain inside of like Serum or inside of whatever sampler or plugin that you're using
or something.
Exactly. Is really going to affect what happens after it in the signal chain. And, the way that I usually mix is, I'll have, if I open up a new audio track, you can see over here, my audio is set to minus infinity volume, and that's how I do a lot of my processing. But I found myself more and more, even with that, going into the signal chain and using utility to kind of adjust the gain staging between plugins.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm using both, really.
Yeah, and I almost feel like yours is a better starting point, whereas mine's more focused on like the end of the mix. So I think both definitely are helpful. I'm going to have to start actually doing this way more, because this is actually a super smart tip that I didn't even think about.
God, there's so much with music, man. There's in production. God, there's just infinite. There's just infinite things that you can do, and they all do something different. And it's what I love about music, but it's also what it seems so daunting sometimes about getting better,
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, well, speaking about daunting and lots of things that we always want to get better at, let's talk about your vocals.
Oh, yay, my vocals.
All right,
yes.
So it looks like most of these are like one clip, maybe a couple of separate clips here and there.
Yeah, lots of takes.
Well, I think that's a really important thing to talk about. Like, can you discuss... Also, thank you, Neuron11, for that follow. Can you discuss how you went about recording these? Like, because I know we talked about it a little bit, kind of going line by line or kind of verse by verse.
Yeah. I guess like the easiest way to break it down would be to start with main. So the main, at least in the first couple like stanzas or first couple verses, I wrote that first. Lyrically and melodically too. So I did the thing where I just kind of sat down and just looped it over and over again, decided what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it, and sang it, which typically involves me like doing multiple takes. Like what I do fresh project is I'll do at least like 3 or 4 empty tracks, and I'll do a take and I'll move that track down, just like as my own way of vocal comping. And then I'll just keep moving these things down into empty tracks and muting them as I do fresh takes. And then I'll go back, I'll listen through which take was the best. I'll get rid of the crappy ones, and I'll keep 1 or 2 of the really good ones. And then what I do is I will shape the transients of the vocals. So I'll just kind of line them up where I want them to be, like where I want the syllables to be. And I'll usually use Complex Pro whenever I'm doing that in Ableton. And then I'll consolidate after that.
Okay, cool. So like, can we talk a little bit about like vocal comping, and kind of, for me, like the reason why I want to stay on this is the importance of it. Because I think a lot of vocalists I've encountered on Twitch are very much a one take Andy, where they record the line. If they don't get the line perfect the first time, they just go back and re-record it, but they only ever give themselves one recording for any particular line. Yeah. And I think that the way that you're describing it, where like you start off with the intention of, I'm gonna do at least 3 takes just of this one thing before we even decide on which ones are good, which ones are bad, and then combine the good takes together into one final one.
Yep, that's exactly what I do. I've never been able to be like the whole one take thing. I just have never been able to do it.
Well, I mean, most people are not. Like the legend of the one take vocalist is essentially a myth. Like there are some people who I know who can nail a really good first take, but I think even then, you know, you want to have those options. And I'm curious if any of these additional takes end up down here in the background vocals, or if you do separate multi-tracks for the background vocals.
It depends on what I'm doing. It depends on if I'm recording a harmony or not.
Oh, for sure.
If I'm doing a harmony, it's an entirely separate process. Like I do the same thing, I just do it completely over again. So if I do the harmony, that gets a whole other set of like 3 empty tracks, and I record that harmony over and over and over again until I get the take that I want. And I usually just leave 1 of those rather than 2, because then I'm just stacking a whole bunch, and then I'm like, oh well, the more vocals I have, the more I have to mix, and I don't want to do that. So I'll do that, and I'll just narrow down the ones that I want. That's if I'm singing a harmony. Now if I use, you know, pitch shifting or formatting for my harmony, which I'll do sometimes, and you'll see that in the project, I'll leave 1 of the main vocal takes, and then I will pitch shift that and make it into a harmony.
Oh,
Just
for
depends
sure.
on what I do.
I dig that. How do you usually approach your vocal harmonies? Do you try and like plan it out first, like try to think about like what chord you're trying to sing, or is it very much feeling based?
Feeling based, definitely.
Okay.
That's where the choir background comes in.
Totally.
Because like I sang pretty much every what's it called in choir, whenever you have different vocal parts, like alto 2, soprano 2. I did all of those throughout high school, because like my voice gradually got deeper the older I got. So I was like a soprano 2, which is like the highest you can sing, when I was like a freshman in high school. And then by the end of my senior year in high school, I was an alto 2, which is the lowest. So I just kind of went like this. And so I sang, you know, different vocal parts. So a lot of that training helps me. I can make a harmony like easily, like all the time.
Cool. Yeah, I've also noticed, kind of you touching on like the vocal range. Most female vocalists that I've met tend to be in that alto 1, soprano 1 range. There's not a lot of like really high, Celine Dion soprano voices, but like generally it's very high in pitch, whereas yours has this nice, warm, close-knit quality to it that I think is honestly, it was really refreshing. And I'm curious if that's something that you lean into, or if it's just kind of a nature of circumstance, or a matter of circumstance.
I think it's something that I lean into. Like my voice is a little bit deeper, but it's not that deep. But I think the tone of it is different. Like I feel like vocals that I typically send to people, they're like, "Whoa, your vocals are weird. Like I don't know how to mix them." And like, trust me, I know. And a lot of that I think has to do with the way that I record, which I'm always trying to get better at as a producer. Like, man, I'm trying to learn more about gain staging when it comes to like setting up a mic and being, further out versus closer in, because that's going to give you an entirely different like feeling. For this one, I sang really close to the mic and I sang really softly, which is what I typically do. And a lot of it has to do with like the gain staging I do on my vocal processor, which does color the sound of my voice a lot. But that also kind of brings in like the tone too. But I definitely lean into it as far as like, yeah, the tone, I guess.
Well, kind of on that, like I saw a question from Dominus. Like, could we talk about kind of the performance aspect of recording vocals? Because this is something that I've actually had to mention to a number of vocalists where they feel like they're either kind of whispering out the lyrics, or especially for like rappers, where they're kind of using their spoken word voice rather than like a rapping tone or like a flow. So like when you are recording your vocals, like what is like the headspace you're in and the way that you approach the performance of it?
Yeah, this is intimate, which is fine. I like this. Yeah, this may sound silly to people, but that kind of goes hand in hand with when I sit down and I get in my area and I'm like, what do I want to say? How do I want to say it? I make my lyrics and I make the melody at the same time, which I think is something that is what makes my vocals so unique and what makes it special. So the headspace that I get into is I do that both at the same time, right? What I want to say, how I want to say it, and I picture the person that I'm talking to in my head, and I picture the situation that I'm in. And for some reason, when I do that, it just comes out right. But if I'm thinking about, I need to go to the gym tomorrow, I'm like, oh God, I need to do my fucking laundry. The vocal takes never come out right, performance wise. They're just flat and they're dull and they're boring because I'm not focusing on the true thing that I'm trying to get out. And like, that's always going to be what I do as a musician. And I have to express myself through music. And so in order to do that, I have to like tap into it somehow. And so,
Thanks for the money.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Face. I'm with that.
Hate
Sorry.
to be that guy, but can I get some quality, quick feedback?
Oh, Soy Boy Swaggy. No, I appreciate that $5 donation. But we're doing an interview right now. So I'm sorry, but no. I can maybe give you feedback tomorrow when I normally do feedback, but I think for now we're going to focus on Sage, if that's all right.
Oh man, I love it.
But yeah, thank you for that $5 dono. I really appreciate it. Anyways, sorry. Totally took me out of the mood. Just like thinking about laundry while recording vocals. But kind of one thing I wanted to ask that I was thinking about when you were saying this is, did you ever take any acting classes in school?
Yeah, I was in theater when I was in middle school.
Okay.
And I have actually acted in a couple things, not because like I wanted to. It's because I was helping out a friend.
Oh, for sure.
I was in one of her short films. I acted in it. I cried in it even.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm never sharing it with any of you, so don't even ask, and you will never find it, I promise. But I pulled it in favor and I acted in this thing for her. I'm not very good at it though.
Well, I mean, you say you're not good at it, but the way that you described how you get into the mindset for recording, like that's straight out of the Stanislavski method school of acting.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, it's like I went to I went in acting class. I took acting classes pretty much all 4 years in high school, and I even did a number of acting classes like in both attempts at college, honestly. And my drama teacher in high school was a proponent of the method form of acting, or method acting, which is kind of like what you get from like
the Christian Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale.
The Heath Ledgers.
Exactly. All the people who kind of embody the character. And part of performing in the method school of acting is sort of you are trying to connect your past experiences and all of your extra
I
stuff.
remember when I do laundry, I share my Tide Pods with the washer because I'm not a selfish guy. I can't eat them all by myself.
Well, thank you for that $5 dono again, Soulboy Swaggy. I appreciate that.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Thank you. If we could leave some of the memes until after the interview, that would be wonderful. But thank you. Anyways, I appreciate that. Those two $5 donos. Thank you so much, Soulboy Swaggy. Part of the performance aspect of music, I think, ties in with that same sort of thing where you are recalling your experiences and you're trying to put yourself in essentially the skin of this character. And I think when you're singing a song, you are in a sense playing a character. So I thought that was interesting. I was curious if that was something you had a background in. But
No, I guess
seems you just kind of
no,
picked it up anyways.
I've never thought of it that way, but it makes sense now.
Yeah.
You know, like that whole thing. But yeah.
Sure. I get that. I know. I'm getting a little bit distracted by
No,
these
that's okay.
donos.
I've never really thought of it that way, but it makes sense. Like, one of my best friends is an actress too, and you know, we're always talking creativity and stuff. She's Amy, the one that lives in LA.
Oh yeah.
But you'll totally get to meet her whenever I come in town, and we can all hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess maybe in just talking to her and just, you know, learning about her craft, which is acting, and you know, it's probably brushed off on me somehow.
Absolutely.
And yeah, just that form of expression somehow.
Yeah.
I have to make it real, or else it doesn't come out right either. It has to
Definitely.
be my own experience. Yeah.
I'm with that. And kind of switching towards the production side of things, away from the actual kind of performance aspect. I am also noticing that for these background vocals and for like this left-right mono, you're actually only barely panning these. Usually when I see vocals or layered vocals in a project, like you see like all the way left, all the way right, just to get this super wide thing. But yours is, again, like kind of with this very intimate, close to the chest production style. Everything's very close together. Everything's very narrowed in, but it still creates that width. Like, was that a conscious choice, or?
Well, the way that I record in the processor I use already makes my vocals wide. So the reason why I only panned it a little bit was to fix any phasing issues, actually.
Oh, for
that I may
sure.
have had with the same vocal tape. Yeah, so like I wanted that like very choir feel in this song. So that's why I have a bunch of vocal takes. But if you have them all in the center, like you're going to get phasing issues with them, especially if they're all kind of matched up the same way. And so that's why I only pan them slightly and I matched them up together.
Oh yeah.
But if you look at the left mono and the right mono, those are just accents.
Yeah, let's solo those real quick and take a listen.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh wow, yeah. There's a lot of motion on these just from them being. It looks like, are these the same vocal take, just pitched?
Which one?
Left mono, right here.
Yes.
Oh, it looks like it might actually be the same recording potentially.
That one probably is. If you keep playing, though, you'll probably find some different ones stacked together.
Yeah. Oh, right here. Oh, yeah. That one has a really nice. I wonder what that sounds like with all of the vocals. So let's get these. Oh, that's so nice.
A lot.
How many takes did that take you?
Oh, dude, hundreds.
Oh man, there's
So many.
Yeah. Hey man.
And so many hours of transient shaping. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm really fast at it now. Apparently there's plugins that'll do it for you, but man, I feel like I'm just so fast at it now. I just like doing it on my own. Who knows?
Setting it all up. Oh yeah. It's all pretty much lined up. And what's with the color changes in these clips?
Yeah. Yeah, that was just for me because I did record these vocals at different times. And so what I'll usually do, especially in that real big part, the one you just played where they're all gray,
Mhm.
for that, I set all of those things up and I edited all of them so they fit really well together. And then I just made them all the same color. So that way I was reminded that, like, hey, Sage, like, probably don't touch these. Like, these are pretty good. And I just kind of worked out from there. So, like, that was a part that I would listen to over and over again. I was like, okay, this feels right. I need to just balance the rest of the song.
Mhm.
So that was just a reminder for me to just work out off of that so that maybe that everything else would just kind of smooth out together, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes total sense. I guess with that, can we talk a little bit about kind of like your color scheme for kind of marking off your project, and maybe a little bit about like how you come up with some of these track names like bass, bass.
Oh God. Oh, yeah. So the color coding on this project in particular doesn't really have any rhyme or reason. When I
Mm.
exported the stems to be mixed, I would just check them off as pink, like as I went along, like,
Oh,
okay, I
for
already did
sure.
this. And I renamed all of them before I exported them. So actually some of the names, they were completely different. But like the bass with the question marks, I think I had another bass patch before that. That was also Serum. It was an entirely different bass sound. And so I put the question marks on there like, is this the one I'm going to use?
Oh,
And
so
then one of the other ones just got the axe. I didn't take it. I didn't leave it in. So that was the final one. So shouldn't have question marks, but that was where my head was at the time.
totally.
The let's see, will you scroll down a tad?
Yeah.
I'm watching on the stream. I forget.
I
Birds,
like
obviously birds. Oh,
this one.
the brass. I don't know. I was probably working on it on stream and I had to rename it, so I just put ass in parentheses because I'm 12 years
Totally.
old and I thought it was funny. Yeah, that's me.
Same.
Oh God. Yeah, I do it all the
With
time.
it. No,
Clap
so
and the
fun.
hats. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory there. Fun. I didn't really know what to name that sound, so I was like, this sounds fun. So I said it was fun.
I dig it.
And then the vocals, if you'll notice in the LUV U Plus stems, I always have a main. I always have a main vocal. Like, this is the focus of the whole song vocally. And so I'll label that one main. And then I'll have maybe background vocals in a group, just like you see there. And then accents.
And
I'll
that's
usually, which is the same in LUV U Plus too. It's kind of a pattern that I've been using. I have vocal accents. Depending on what I'm doing. But
I'm with that. I just noticed this unlabeled. What is this?
oh yeah, that was actually a suggestion from Volant. I don't know if you guys listen to
Volant
his music
music.
or his stream.
Yeah.
He's incredible, by the way. Super good producer, and he thankfully likes my music and is like super awesome and helping me out and
That's
with
cool.
suggestions and stuff. But he listened to the song. I think I put it in feedback at one time, and he just noticed that that transition there felt a little too jolting. So, like, you could see where I reversed the piano.
Oh yeah.
So what I did was I created another track and I did the sampling thing where you can change like where your channel is taking the audio from, and I took the piano effects only and I recorded those, and then I just kind of smoothed them over to make a new transition, I guess, to just kind of make everything flow better.
Oh, that's so cool.
That was like a last minute production change, and it worked out.
Nice. I didn't like listening back to the song.
It's very subtle. Yeah.
Yeah, like I can barely tell. Oh, but like right there, like that makes a huge difference. Like without it, this section feels so much more kind of, yeah, like right there. It's like just that one hit at the beginning. That right there changes everything for the track. Which for music like this, and honestly even for a lot of other styles of music, like the subtlety of little details like, you know, these reverse claps, like some of these chops right here, kind of linking up with the brass chords, like all these little tiny details really impact the song in a huge way.
Yeah, and I think having other people listening to your music and taking the creative feedback and doing what you will with it is just so important as an artist. Like a lot of times when I don't know. I think when it comes to feedback too, and for me as an individual, is like I have to ask for feedback. You need to ask for the right feedback in the right stage of your music. So if you're in the production stage, little details like that people are going to notice, you have to take that and then think about it and be like, okay, well, how can I fix this? Do I even want to fix this? Is this just creative opinion or is it technical things? Like all of those things are super important for you as an artist to analyze. But I would have never have heard that transition little thing that Valant heard because I've listened to the song a million fucking times. Of course, I'm not going to hear that anymore. Like my ears are dulled to it in a way, like especially when you get that far into the production process. And so when he told me, I knew exactly like what I had to do to fix it, and then I did it, and I rolled with it. And luckily, I feel like I got lucky in that instance that it worked out because a lot of those last minute changes like don't work out for you, and it sucks.
Yep.
But I got lucky and it worked. But you also, when it comes to like just asking for feedback in the right stage of your songs, and I'm so sensitive to this. It's like I'll ask my boyfriend. He also makes music. About something when I'm in the mixing phase. Like, okay, I'm mixing this song. I'm no longer in the production phase. Like, I'm not adding any more elements. And if I ask him for feedback, he's going to be like, you should do an entirely different hat sound. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and it makes me want to cry. I'm so frustrated. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, it's too far away. And so I think as an artist, I have to know when is the right stage to ask for feedback and what I'm looking for. I can't just be like, what do you think? You need to ask for the specific thing.
Yes.
Or else you may go crazy. So that's just me.
No, I actually agree 1,000,000%. So how long did this project take you to get from kind of like the first session to where we're at now?
Oh man, months. I started that song in beginning of April. Yep. Okay. Beginning of April, and it's now September. So I finished it a week ago. Like it was a week ago today. I finished the song.
Nice.
So a lot of my songs I have to leave and come back to. And for Breathe, I left that song completely untouched for like 2 whole months. And then Sad Savior was that person in my life that motivates you and pushes you. Is like, where's Breathe? Like, where's Breathe at? Like every time he'd come in my chat, he'd be like, where's Breathe? And like a little angry face. And I'm like, man, I got to finish that song. And then it was the right day. It was the right time. I was off and I opened the project. And then I just hammered out 4 hours, 8 hours of work and just really got it done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about in here? Anything you think I might have missed?
No, I feel like we talked about everything.
Yeah, we went over this in detail, and also I'm liking the fact that there's like literally 2 claps in the entire song.
I know.
No snares, 2 claps. That's it.
Yeah, percussion on this one's weird, and it was on purpose. Like the hats don't even really make sense sonically, and the claps don't either. I wanted them to be more elements rather than instruments in this case.
Yeah, so definitely.
That's where I was going for.
Cool, awesome. Well, I think that wraps it up for this then.
Yay.
So I can go ahead and bring us back to the big webcam so everyone can see our beautiful faces.
Okay.
And why don't we spend a little bit of time answering a couple of questions, because I know Dom has a question about performances. Like, how would you take this and perform it live?
I did actually. Back in May, what I did was I took the song, and it was an earlier version, so I didn't even have all those percussive elements. It was a lot more bare bones. Mm-hmm. And I kept the accented vocals, and then I actually just made a backing track for that song in particular.
Okay.
So I had transitions and things that I would cue up, but I would play the song. And then I synchronized my vocal processor to have harmonies with it that I would trigger off and on at certain points. So it felt a little more dynamic. And then I just sang along, honestly. This is a hard song to sing live. I'm not going to lie. Like, it was tough because it's high-pitched parts. And so, yeah, it was pretty simple. Just a backing track, honestly.
Oh, for sure. Well, before we get too deep into some of these questions, like, do you ever use a field recorder? Have you ever recorded your own Foley or anything like that?
one time I recorded some birds that were outside my house. That's it. With one of those Zoom microphones.
Mhm.
But I want to get more into that. I'm like super interested in like how sample packs work. I've been like talking to Zen a lot. Like I want to make a Copper Queen pack, like, but make it like legit. But I
Oh
have
yeah,
to do a lot of learning before I get to that point.
yeah.
But I'm interested in doing that. Yeah.
It's definitely a completely different mental state to be in to write like a sample pack stuff versus like writing a
The
tune.
organization, like I like that too, but I have a lot to learn before I can really get to it.
Oh yeah. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about like your process and your mindset in a bit more of a general sense? Because we've gotten to see like two examples of how Sage writes a song. So if you were going to start a new project, what's your mindset? Like, could you walk us through like what your first session looks like, how far you usually get in the project, like all these little things that some people might have trouble with when they're just kind of starting off and looking at like a blank Ableton or FL Studio session and they have no idea what to do.
Yeah. So when I start with a blank slate, I always think of the intention, and I usually break it down into two things. As far as my intention goes, am I looking to deliver something to someone, or am I wanting to express myself? So those are the two avenues that I think about when I sit down. If it's that I'm trying to deliver something, such as I'm trying to create vocals for somebody that I might be collaborating with, that would involve me starting a blank project, but just putting in their track in there.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The other side of it, which is the majority of it, which is I just want to express myself. And so when I sit down, I'll just honestly start with splice. That's the best idea starter for me. Or I'll set that pad up and just start playing keys and just
Okay.
kind of see what comes out. If I find a really cool like chord progression on splice or a really cool sound that I like, I'll put it into the project and just start with 8 measures. Just kind of play that over and over again. I'm like, okay, let me change some things about it. I might export the MIDI. I'll play along on there with some different instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Chords, though, that's always a song starter for me. It's just chords and chord progressions, and then I'll try and put in a bass sound, maybe some sort of groove to get me started.
Mm-hmm.
Once I get to that point, though, once I get to a bass groove, it usually means I'm flowing pretty good, and then I'll throw in like a drum loop after that. By then, I only have like maybe 20 seconds worth of song, and it's very bare bones, but it's an idea at least, and I'll keep playing it over maybe for an hour or so. I'll see what I can add. If I'm not really getting anywhere though, and I'm not liking it,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I don't even save that particular idea,
Oh, yeah.
which sucks. But like that just happens sometimes. So it just depends. Yeah, but that's how I start.
Okay, so would you say that it's almost more important that you start generating ideas than it is that you actually like complete the ideas when you're just starting off, just so you can kind of like get yourself in that mindset?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've never finished a song like in a day or even a whole arrangement for that matter. So yeah, I think just coming up with an idea and seeing where you can get with it as far as you can in that moment. Like sometimes I'll sit down and my intention is to express myself, and then I look at the clock and it's been 4 hours and I have work in the morning, and that's always fun, but like that's just what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think just like whatever feels good to me at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
On average, what would you say is like the percentage completion of a song in like the first session or like the first 2 or 3 sessions? Like, and I mean, everyone has their own different things. Like I'd say like I usually personally get like maybe a minute tops on my first session, but like it changes
About a
obviously.
minute for me too, like minute
Okay.
minute and a half means like, okay, I got at least like a verse, an intro, and a chorus. That's usually what it goes to me. So it's like getting up there like a minute and a half, that I'm doing pretty good as far as the idea goes.
For sure.
And then as far as like completion for everything, I'd say I have like 10 songs right now that are like fucking bangers, and they're like really, really good. But out of all of them, I only have 2 finished, which is LUV U and BREATHE.
Yeah. Well, let's say, you have an idea. Let's say you have like a minute or so of music that you've written, like you feel comfortable with it. You feel like it has a lot of potential. How would you develop that like initial seed into like maybe not a finished song, but something that's like over 70% done. Like you have the structure laid out, you have a lot of details kind of put in. You're at a point where you feel like you're comfortable like showing it to people or maybe playing it out. Like, what does it take to get from where you start to there?
Mm-hmm. Um, Listening back, I think something that at least strikes me as interesting, at least like it has to have that. It can't just be like an 8-bar loop that you repeat. Like you don't want to show anybody that, but like some people do. That's fine. That's just not the way I roll. I have to have at least something vocally on top. I don't really ever. I sent Carter one time an instrumental that I did with no vocals on it, and it's like 3.5 minutes long, and it's like it's a done song with no vocals on it, and it's just not interesting. So I have to have some sort of vocals on a song that I'm going to share with somebody before I feel like it's ready to be shared. At least one verse, maybe a chorus too. But as a producer, I work a lot faster now, which is pretty great. So I can bang out an idea in one day, but it's like 8 hours of work probably to get a minute and a half of like all of these elements. I have a transition in there. I've got like weird percussive things going on. I got like all types of stuff. But in order to get to that point, I think vocally, like that has to be in there before I'm ready to like make it a solid idea.
For
At least
sure.
one verse, even if I go back and re-record the whole thing.
Okay. Well, do you have any strategies that you use in terms of like getting the idea developed? Like anything that like like let's say if I add in this one synth that I use a lot, like your pad, let's say if it's not something you started with, like I know that if I can spend some time getting that down, I usually can get it to like 2.5 minutes. I can usually get the structure done, or I can get a lot of different ideas out there. Like what do you usually do to kind of develop the idea out?
I think a hook is super important. Like establishing that and building out from it is really helpful for me. Like if I can create that catchy thing, whatever that is, the idea, the catchy part of it, like, cause I'm the one you're fucking with, like if I can do that, like it makes building out a lot easier. But sometimes whenever you're just starting with the chord progression, you're not making the hook right then. But sometimes I'll force myself to think about what the hook's going to be, especially if I already have an idea of what I want to sing about. So I'll try and get that idea down, even if I have to go soon, I have to close a project. I'll try to do that. It doesn't always happen, but I'll at least be thinking about it. That's what helps me. Something that I do a lot is if I have an idea and it's like a minute and a half and I've got something going, I'm ready to share it with people, I'll bounce it and then I'll transpose it a few steps down and I'll just re-listen to it in different steps. So like I'll listen at -3, -5, like even like -8, like really, really slow to see if I can hear anything different about it, and also listen to it really fast too.
Oh,
I
interesting.
don't know, it's kind of weird, but
No,
it helps me.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, I've never thought of that, but that actually sounds really, really interesting. Kind of like recontextualizing the whole song in so many different ways. So like, what would you say gets you from there to a finished song? Is it just kind of like grinding away at it, or is there something that usually kind of like strikes your mind and like, oh, that's what I need to do?
That's where the whole art thing comes in. I think like, okay, I have this idea and it's going to be a finished song. I start thinking about, or at least just playing around with like visually what I could put along to it, such as a cover. Like I'll just go to my iPad and just kind of start drawing things up and thinking like, well, how do I want to display this idea as a package? Because once I start to think of it as a package, that's when I get more committed to the idea of finishing it. Especially when I'm like making little videos along with it, because then I even get more ideas of how I want to change it when I can just like look at video content and see if I can match it up to make like a little music video for it. Even though I don't show anybody this thing, I think it's a good exercise in creativity.
Oh, interesting. So like so it's almost like by telling yourself this is a song I'm going to release, you make it a song that you're going to finish.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm with that. Like, do you have any tips for people dealing with maybe like writer's block or any sort of self-doubt they might be having in terms of their own art? Because I know that, like, for a lot of people, even myself, like, one of the things that keeps me from finishing a lot of music is a lot of self-doubt about, like, is this good enough? Am I doing something wrong here? Am I doing something right here? Like, do you have any advice for people who deal with that?
Yeah, I do. And it's like advice that I should take for myself. As far as writer's block goes, I actually just went through a little bit of that recently for like 2 weeks, and it sucked. I was crying in my closet for one part of it because I was just like, nothing's coming out right. God, I'm so emotional. But writer's block, people are like, take a break. And for me, that's just not really an option. Sure, I'm going to take a break. Like, maybe today I'm just going to like step away from the computer. Like, you don't have anything you need to do right now. Like, maybe just don't sit down. That's one thing. But I think pushing through those moments is a lot more valuable than just giving up altogether for a little bit. So I think pushing through that, for me at least, felt really good. But it sucks. And I think you should evaluate and reflect in those moments about who you are as an artist whenever you're having those things, and try and sort through emotionally maybe what it is that you're doing. Listen to other people's music. Oh my God, you have to listen to music that isn't your own when you're going through that, because you have to be inspired. You have to listen to what other people are doing, and then you'll just start to hear it again, and then you'll get the workflow back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And evaluate the habits that you're doing as a producer. Like, I have a lot of habits that I do. Some are good, some are bad, that I kind of have this formula for making things. And so I was evaluating myself and reflecting on what my habits are as a producer. And I found that to be pretty useful, especially just when I started to get out of my writer's block and back into my workflow. My workflow changed just a little bit, and I think for the better, because I changed those habits a tad, kept the good ones kind of throughout the bad ones. And then as far as like the struggle emotionally of like, man, am I good enough? God damn it. That's tough. That's a really hard one. I think whenever you have the thoughts of like, man, I'm not good enough, everyone's just lying to me, I think you can like listen to that thought that you're having, but don't latch on to it. I think you can see it, and you can acknowledge that thought and just let it pass, because you can do two things. You can either latch onto that idea and believe in that, which is not going to help you. That's just stupid. And it's dumb, but it's so easy to latch on to it.
Yeah.
Or you can just let that thought go away and keep working, just always wanting to be better. Like, those are the two things that you can do in that moment. And trust me, I have those moments and they come at me like at the worst possible times. I go from 0 to 60 like way too fast. I go from 1 second, I'm like, man, I'm the shit. I'm this whole package. And then the next second, I'm like crying on the floor of my closet because I'm like, I'm terrible. Like, I suck. So everybody goes through that, and just see who you are in that moment,
No, I get that. Yeah. I mean, I personally, I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome. I always think that I'm not good enough. And I think it's part of the curse of being an artist. We make art because there are things that we cannot put into words. Otherwise we would just say them. And I think part of the baggage, for better or for worse, that comes with that is realizing that as you start to achieve any sort of notoriety, even if it's not like major, even if it's just like your roommates or your friends talking about how good you are, like, you don't see it because you're there in the day-to-day grind, where it's like, if you compare where you are now to where you are 5 years ago, it's obvious there's a lot of development. Like, listening to my first song and comparing that with, the remix that I've been writing for yours, like, I'm still not happy with that remix, but I know for a fact that's like leagues better than even the first 20 or 30 or 100 songs that I wrote in the first couple of years of my journey as a musician. So, in a sense, it's almost like knowing that other people struggle with it too is reassuring in a way.
Definitely.
Because like we all face that. We all have our demons.
Oh God, yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess kind of to move to a bit of a lighter topic. How do you figure out or decide or convince yourself or whatever that any particular song is done? Like, how do you make that decision that, okay, I'm not touching this anymore, I'm going to release it?
Yeah. Well, I've only done that a couple times. I think you go through the mixing phase. For me is just, I'm not a pleasant person when I'm in that phase. I am stressed. I'm like, God, there's so many things. I think once I've been able to take a partner like Oscar, who's been like so crucial in helping me these past 2 songs, has really helped that. So I know that, okay, when I'm exporting these stems, I'm going to take time physically to leave my house and go to this place to mix this song. So production wise, there's nothing else done. But how do I get to that point? I think once I take at least a couple weeks of listening to it, just in different scenarios. Like I'll throw it on, I'll like, start my laundry and like clean my house. So I'll listen to it as background music, or I'll sit down and I listen to it as a focus. And then I'll like really ask myself, like, am I happy with this? Does this make me happy? Because there's always that thought in the back of my head that's like, oh, this could be different. This could be a little bit different, but like, doesn't really matter. I think in those moments, I ask myself, does this make me happy? Would I be happy with releasing this? And if the answer is yes, then it's ready. I can sit here and go back and forth for weeks and on end, but I don't want to do that. That would make me unhappy. So I think just like that thing, like the minimalism thing, and we know when you pick up something and we're like, does this give me joy? And if it doesn't, then throw it out. If it does, then like keep it. So
With that,
I think kind of like that idea is what I hold on to. And so, yeah, that's when I decide that it's ready.
totally. That's actually really, really cool. I like that. So I guess just to kind of wrap up this part of the interview, like, are there any like little additional like tips or tricks or even just like words of advice that you have for, other producers, other songwriters, in terms of, not just like what you wish I had asked you, but also like what you wish you had been told?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. Wish I had been told, just like at any stage. I think, especially for people just starting out in music production, I think just kind of asking yourself, like, I think it all starts out as just fun, right? And like, this is a thing and it's new and it's cool. I definitely underestimated the amount of time and the amount of work I had to put in order to get to a place where I feel confident. And that time and that amount of work is different for everybody. For me, I feel like I had a long time. I learned really, really slow in the beginning, but I think you can lean into that and be proud of that, and be proud of yourself, like with whatever progress that you have, even if it's you produce this beat and it's like 8 measures long, like that's amazing, and you should feel proud of that accomplishment because you have to get to that point in order to get to another point. So also recognizing that you do have to put out a large body of work, not put out, but you have to make a large body of work before you're like gonna get anywhere to be like really, really good. And that's true for every like musician, but that amount changes depending on, who you are and the type of music that you're making. And then I also think just the biggest thing is like, don't be afraid, yeah, this song is like really vulnerable and you're seeing like this weird side of me, and like my mom's gonna listen to this and be like, lips on my legs, Sage, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, sorry, Mom. You have to just fucking go for it.
Yeah, you have to write the music that speaks to you.
Yeah, it's my art. This is my thing, and it's not for everybody, and I understand that completely. And I'm not gonna get butthurt over it if it's not. But like, just don't be afraid. Just fucking go for it.
Aw, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for kind of giving us an insight into the musical process and production of Sage.
Yay!
Now,
You're welcome. I had so much fun.
Yeah, now we can go into a couple of fun topics, maybe answer a couple of additional questions from chat. I know we got a bunch of questions, and I apologize to everyone who asked stuff and we totally skipped it over. I apologize if we missed any of your questions. So if you have any additional questions for Sage, feel free to drop that in the chat. And while we do that, why don't we talk about some fun stuff like digital audio workstations. Now we get to go into the gossip. So
hot goss. Spill tea.
what do you think about other DAWs? Because you said you use GarageBand, Logic, and Ableton. Have you ever tried other DAWs? Have you ever tried working in multiple DAWs at once? Are there any DAWs that you like or dislike? Let's get real nitty gritty into the DAW wars.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, those are the ones I've used. Logic, I think, is pretty cool, and it's got a really strong audio engine. But man, it's just not fun to work in. The interface sucks. Like, come on, it's just so boring to work in. But it's super versatile, and I totally get that. I think Ableton's superior because that's the workflow that I have. It just makes sense to me, which I fucking love. By the way, my birthday is November 19th. Thank you, November 19th. I'll be 27 this year, and I don't know, everybody that like has ever submitted like a song in my feedback stream that has made their song in like a fucking like Cubase. I'm like, okay, this person's a psychopath probably. I don't know, like this music's weird and crazy. I don't know how anybody can make it in like Cubase. I've never used Cubase. I mean, I used like a version of it a long time ago. Like
for sure.
Whenever Cakewalk was a thing, if you guys ever remember Cakewalk.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I should probably try FL just to say that I tried it. But it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's a very different workflow. I remember Carter and I were talking about that during his interview, where he considers like FL is, and I think this is actually really accurate, FL is generally more for people who don't think a lot about organization. Like, you can make FL totally organized, and it can work well for a lot of people in that way. But like Ableton is Carter calls it a logical DAW. I don't really agree with that. I think all DAWs have their own internal logic, but Ableton is very singularly focused. Whereas like Noise Signal is saying FL is a sandbox in hell, and I think the sandbox environment of FL is one of its both features, and for some people like me, it's a detriment. I feel like it's too open.
Menus. If I have to go to too many menus, I get bored, and I'm like, no, oh my gosh, because like I click too fast, and then I'll get into like the fourth sub menu of a menu, and I'll accidentally click out of it, and I'll literally want to rip my hair out.
Yeah.
So I think like doing that would just bother the crap out of me.
Oh yeah, and that's the one thing I like about Ableton is it's all
There's
right
really
there in front
not
of
a
you.
lot of menus you have to go through, which is really nice and makes me work really quickly.
Absolutely, exactly.
Dominus, those are the people that bought a Zune instead of an iPod. I know. I love that.
Did you have any friends who had a Zune?
Oh yeah, I had a couple friends. But I was the brat that had like the fucking iPod. Classic.
Same. Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of shifting on from that, like, why don't we talk for a little bit about like the music business or the industry side of things? Like, I think one thing that I've really liked about kind of Sage as a brand is how consistent your kind of branding has been, kind of the creative direction of all of your work, and it shows how much input you put into these different kind of aspects of your brand, both from a creative perspective and also from a business perspective. So like, do you have any tips for people who might have trouble figuring out their brand and figuring out like their art direction and stuff like that?
Totally. I mean, trying to be true to yourself and just think about, okay, you can get really granular with it. Like, colors is one thing. Like, pink is one of my favorite colors, and like you see it everywhere, all over my stuff, like purple, pinks, and all that stuff. So like a color scheme that I really like, and like sticking to it, like no matter what. That's really important. And then also picking out like 3 to 5 things that are about you that you want to establish the brand. So last you just said cop hates ponies. No, I love ponies. Like, I love horses. Like I used to ride horses when I was growing up. Like that's like a thing that I'm like that weird horse girl. And so like that's a part of the brand. And so I know that sounds like really silly, but you can make it into whatever you want it to be, because when you think about it, like your social media and your marketing, it's like putting your best foot forward on like what people see about you, you know? And I'm learning as I go of what that really looks like. I also think picking a platform and really honing in on that one. So if you look at my Instagram, like you can tell I put a lot of work into that. My Instagram, that's like my platform for like Sage music. And I've put a lot of focus into staying consistent as far as that color scheme works. So when I think about colors, I think about the filters that I use for the photographs that I'm going to post.
Yeah.
So I'll typically use the same filter for almost all of them, which has like a pink and purple hue to it. And I'll just kind of adjust accordingly.
Yeah, totally.
And staying consistent with like how you interact. I had a friend that I worked with who like totally changed the game for me. If I haven't met this guy, I don't think I'd be where I am right now with like my branding, because his name's Carlos Dueño. He's incredible. Old coworker.
Oh, cool.
He was looking at my Instagram, and he's one of those people that just energizes the crap out of you. You know, when you meet people in your life that they're like, they energize you, they inspire you, they leave you feeling motivated, and they ask you those questions that no one's asked you before that like really makes you think like, oh fuck, you're right. And he asked me, he was like, what are people going to see about Sage when they go to your Instagram?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh fuck, like what do they see right now? And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess a lot of selfies. And he's like, yeah, like is it that like Sage is like a musician and she does this on the side and she also has her personal life, or is she like a producer? Is she an artist? Is she this like thing? And I asked myself, I was like, yeah, that's what I want people to see. So he asked those questions to me and really helped me understand like what I need to post and have intention with everything that I do. And so that's when I started breaking off from like a personal side of social media and then to like the business artist side of things, I guess. And so once I started thinking of it like that, it got a little bit easier to figure that out. It may not make a lot of sense, but it took a lot of time, definitely.
Oh yeah,
well, a lot of trial and error.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of thought that goes into something that seems natural when it comes to social media. Like that's one thing that I've noticed. Like, kind of because what you were saying, like I've made some of those realizations, and I've had a lot of, honestly, like almost like a crisis of faith where like I'm like, what am I even doing with my social media? How am I doing this to my brand? And then, you know, you really start to hone in on like, what are the correlations between me as a human being? What do I personally want to say? And what do I as an artist or I as a brand want to say? And how can I get those things to align more? So like, even if I have to, blow up certain aspects of my personality or hide certain aspects of my personality, how can I keep these things consistent while we're, existing in this space where so many people use it as just like a personal story, and we're trying to make it more than that.
That's a great way of putting it. You have to separate yourself, like you have to really separate things. For me, like I just almost like made this like mind map of, okay, I need to separate these ideas and ideals and whatever. And then you slowly piece them and connect them together by different visual things, I guess. And so I also put myself in like the audience's shoes, is like, okay, who are my fans? Like, I want people to see me. Like, what are they going to see? What are their initial reactions? You have to really put yourself outside of who you are to be able to like have that perspective.
Oh,
and
that's
ask yourself those questions.
It's a really good point. Yeah, like how important it is, like, because I'm actually curious what you think about this. And I talked about it before. Like, there's this idea that I've started to adopt over the past couple of years, where when you put out any form of art, and I think for the sake of argument, we can consider like the way that we brand ourselves on social media as a form of art. There's a lot of artistic components to it, composing the actual written message, figuring out what the imagery is going to be, any sounds that are going to be there, especially if you're a musician. Once you put it out there, it no longer intrinsically belongs to you, because it also is affected by how each individual person interprets that, absorbs it, and kind of transforms it into their own experience. Like I know, I'm like for me, and I'm sure for you, like there is a song that you listened to 10 years ago that, you know, maybe the artist who wrote it was just trying to make a record, but for you, it has such deep import because it really changed the way you were experiencing whatever was going on in your life. So like, do you find yourself kind of experiencing that where like you put art out there or you put out some sort of social media post and you find that people like respond to it in a different way than what you were expecting?
Yeah. And when I find out about those things, I love it.
Cool.
That means so much to me, I think. Like, and it's only happened a couple times outside of like the friend group and like on the Twitch community and stuff. Like whenever people make comments like, "Oh, this reminds me of this," I'm like, "Oh, I love that. That's what that reminds you of. I never would have looked at it that way." But and I'm seeing that it happens pretty often, but every now and then you get that message from somebody you've never met before, and they're like, "I just wanted to let you know that I love your music and I think you should keep making it." And like those messages are just like they just make your entire week. Like,
Yeah.
it makes me feel like super satisfied, like I'm doing something right. And sometimes I'll add a little thing like this song, like I listened to it whenever this was happening, and it, you know, it was perfect, and that's amazing because like that happens to me, like God, all the time. Yeah, but I love it. I love that that happens, and even if it's something like totally random and weird, I'm like, okay, I could see that. Sure, but you know, feel whatever you want to feel. I think that's the beauty about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's super fun for a lot of people. I feel like kind of just because I know that there are a lot of times where like I feel very possessive over my art, and trying to remember that like you can't make someone view your art in a certain way. They're only going to view it in the way that they experience the world.
Absolutely.
And
it's kind of like that saying, like, you can't please everybody either. Like, that's just impossible. People are going to not like you. People are going to hate your guts. And like, it sucks, but that's just life.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to do that. Lassie's asking, like the magnets on your fridge inspire you to make music.
Oh, yeah. I told a story on my stream a long time ago. When I was in like college, I used to go to my like friends' house parties and I would like steal their magnets off their fridge. And I have one of my friend Marcel Mickens of a baby photo of him that was on his fridge, and I still have it. He knows I have it though. I don't steal people's magnets anymore. I'm not a thief, but yeah, that's what he's referring to.
You appropriate. Oh, for sure. And then kind of on a bit of a technical question, I saw one from Noise Signal that I think we skipped over a couple of times. Like, have you ever used like the punch in, punch out feature inside of Live?
What is that? No.
Well, I can show you. Let me actually hop over to the side monitor real quick, load up Ableton. This is something that I actually found out about like a half a year ago, maybe a year ago. And the way that it works once Ableton loads up is if you look up here at the top of the screen where like the loop icon is, this little circle with the arrow right here at the top.
I'm watching on stream. Okay, yes.
Yeah, this thing. So these two things to the left and right of it that I just clicked on.
Yeah.
This one right here is punch in on the left. This one right here is punch out. So if I have these set up like this, and let's say I have like this 2-bar section on, and I'm going to turn off looping. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press record right here, and then watch as it goes onto that section that's looped. It's actually going to start recording, and then once it gets to the end of that divider, it stops recording.
Oh, shit.
So the idea is that if you have like a certain section of the song that you maybe want to re-record one line or one take of a MIDI instrument or something, you can just kind of set the loop markers to a certain range and use the punch in, punch out.
No, I do not use that, but I will now.
We have learned something.
God.
Thank
And
you, Noise
it's
Signal.
like the simplest thing that like you would think I would be using. I don't. No, I always do shit the hard way for as long as I possibly can until I am enlightened on the better way to do it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Shout out to Noise Signal for giving us a little bit of a tech tip.
Yeah, that oh shit, that's a mood. Yeah, you guys know what that is.
Oh yeah. Does anyone else have any additional questions they want to ask of Sage while we still have her? I don't know how much longer you want to go. We've been going for about 2.5 hours at this point.
Oh wow. It's been 2 hours already. Oh wow.
Yeah, we've
Look
been
at that.
going
We
for a
did it.
while. Just kind of blitzed through it. But I don't. I guess while we're waiting for any additional questions, I would ideally like real questions, Lassie. I see you going. I'm worried that we're gonna get another magnets on the fridge question. What's your favorite number? Ask Glorious Rainbow.
What's your favorite number? I really like even numbers. But I don't really have a favorite number.
There's like nice round numbers.
I like even numbers because I'm really bad at math, and so it's easier to count.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's your what's your question, Lassie? Oh my God.
Oh, they're like almost really straight though.
It's the angle. That's the thing. It's the camera angle. I'm
Yeah, it's
sure.
probably the camera angle that's like making it like weird.
Oh
you
yeah.
know?
Like I don't think there's a problem. They aren't. It's perspective. Exactly.
And also, whenever you open and close doors, like they'll just kind of tilt
Yeah.
every little bit that you close and door, and I'm like, Lassie, you're crazy. I've seen the houses you've made in Minecraft. I bet your house is like spotless.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, let's kind of wrap up by asking what is coming in the future, because we already know that Breathe is coming out soon. You have more tracks in the works. So, what is, I'd say, just over the course of the next year, and then we can end it off with Lassie's music inspiration questions. But what's happening, down the road for Sage?
Oh gosh. Well, I definitely want to get to a point where I am able to put out like projects that are a little bit more well-rounded as far as like an experience goes. Like I would love to be able to play shows consistently, but I want to have shows that are more of like an experience, like visually and like that sound really, really good. I'd love to get to a point where I do that. I know there's a lot of work that I have to do to get to that point too. I need to get more shows under my belt. And there's a lot of money financially, or not money, like there's a lot of things financially that have to happen to be able to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something I'm thinking about in the future. Would love to be able to do more like video content, like a music video that's like legit, like a full one, not like little clips and things that I post on Instagram, like something that's like full and completed, that with a high production value that really says like, hey, this is Sage, like I'd love to be able to get to that point. A lot of that requires me having the right people and the right assets to be able to make that happen. But it is something that I'm thinking about and looking forward to in the future. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. That's exciting. I'm sure it'll be great once we see Sage up on Coachella in 2020.
Oh yeah, Yeah.
All right. So Lassie asked about your musical inspirations. We talked about that a little bit at the beginning, Lassie.
Yeah.
So if you want, you can go check that, or Sage, if you want to kind of give a quick little rundown real quick. And then I think we'll end off with Glorious Rainbow's question, because I think it's actually a great question to end on.
This is going to sound so silly. I didn't know what an EQ did until about a year and a half ago. And once I like finally let myself understand what an EQ did, it just unlocked a lot of other things just about music, about sound in general for me. I don't know how I went so long without like knowing what it did. I guess I was just afraid of it for some reason. And that too is like just being afraid of something because it looks too complex is something that a lot of people do, just because it's like, oh, that's too technical or that's just too much. Once I stopped doing that and just was like open to learning, especially with the EQ, I just unlocked a lot for me. Yeah. And then I just kind of got over obstacles a lot faster, and I was able to produce better things a lot quicker.
Nice. I mean, that actually, it kind of speaks to more like the mindset of like kind of just not looking at something as insurmountable. Looking at it as in, I can do that. I just know that it's going to take a fuckload of work to get to that point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
I'm with that. Well, I think that will wrap it up for us. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh, you guys are
Absolutely.
amazing. Dominus, let's make a music video, please. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, this was awesome. I had so much fun. Thank you for like letting me talk about myself for 2 hours. That was really fun.
This was a blast. Yeah. Do you want to do a little shout out? I'm sure a lot of people here already know who you are. Yes. Thank you, Sage. Everyone say thank you to Copper Queen or Sage.
Thanks, guys.
Let me give you a
shout out to like all the people on Twitch. Y'all are awesome. You know who you are. And yeah, if you want the Love You Plus stems, they're going to be on my Discord on Friday, starting tonight at midnight. They will be available for 24 hours, and that is all. Please go get them while you can, because I will not send them to you after that amount of time. So join the Discord and all that good stuff. So I guess that's what's coming up in the very near future. But thank you so much.
Can't wait. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to let you go now.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.
Just hit the meeting or what?
Oh, yeah, just hit end meeting at the bottom right.
All right, peace.
Bye. Love you. Awesome. So I think that does it for this. Let me go ahead and hop back over here to the webcam. Let me go ahead and